And we are live. Hello, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, hello, we are live. Welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John Preposterous Ryan, and you're very welcome. It's June the 8th, and the polls have closed in the UK, so we've got a lot to talk about. The panel this evening consists of Olga Cronin, Neil Curran, Johnny Keenan, and new to Broadsheet on the Telly is Gina Gallagher, who's living in London, but is Gina? That's the right pronunciation.
Yes, that's it, John. Yep, thank you.
Gina Gallagher is from Roscommon, but lives in London and actually works for a telly company. So, but this is, I think, her first time on Irish terrestrial telly, so to speak. I think,
it is. It's my first time. Thank you for having me along.
Say hello to your mother later.
I think she's watching.
Hello, Mrs. Gallagher. Gina works for Channel 4, so you know, if there's any technical problems, continuity issues, we can rely on Gina. So we're going to talk about the general election and whatnot. The unelectable Jeremy Corbyn, unelectable. But first, we're going to go to Olga to go through tomorrow's newspapers. Thanks.
So, so here they are. I hope they're up there. Okay, up. Are they up there? Can you see them?
Oh, they're there. Yeah.
They're there. Okay, great. Sorry,
no.
My computer's acting up a little bit. Yeah. So, so basically, they're the front page there, or the first page there of the Irish Times, and there's a story by Dennis Staunton. So, May's gamble on early election backfires. So essentially, this is because of the exit poll that came out there at 10 o'clock. So it's putting the Tories at 314 and Labour at 266. So essentially, it looks like, if that's correct, the Conservatives will lose their majority by about 12 seats. So so this is a big loss for Theresa May, given that she had a majority. So so Dennis Staunton is saying that if May gets 314 seats, she could seek support of the Democratic Unionist Party, or another coalition could be a progressive alliance of Labour, SNP and the Lib Dems, and they would have the same number of seats as the Conservatives then altogether, but they would also have support of other smaller parties. So that's the main story there in the Irish Times. Obviously all the papers are leading with that. There is the story there, Trump hits back at Comey after hearing, by Suzanne Lynch. So basically, Comey was at the Senate Intelligence Committee today, and he said that while Donald Trump wasn't personally under investigation as part of the inquiry into Russian meddling of the election, he said Trump had sought to influence the investigation by asking him to let go of the FBI inquiry into Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor.
Yeah.
Anyway, but in response to that, Donald Trump has come back and said, so basically Suzanne Lynch is reporting a defiant Donald Trump hit back at damaging testimony delivered by Comey, denying claims he had requested Mr. Comey's loyalty and rejecting allegations of interference into an FBI investigation. And the statement was put out as well by his personal lawyer, Donald Trump's lawyer, saying that Trump had never informed or substance directed or suggested that Mr. Comey stop investigating anyone, including Flynn.
Okay.
So there's that. Then at the bottom there, this is a story that's actually on most of the front pages as well. It's about the public service pay deal. So I think it took about 13 days for this to come together, or for talks, but there've already been unions saying that they're not going to agree to it. So this story here by Martin Wall, he's just saying that teachers and Gardaí have criticised elements of this pay deal. So moving on, just there at the bottom of the front page, there's a tab there too. The principal of a Catholic secondary school in South Dublin has called on its patron, the Edmund Rice Schools Trust, to step aside. So just thought that might be interesting tomorrow.
That's Brothers.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No. So then in the Times Ireland edition, so this is their new print edition, it would seem that Paschal Donohoe, the Public Expenditure Minister, is coming through with what Leo Varadkar said during the leadership campaign. So he's so this is a story by Niamh Lyons and Michael Cogley, and they're just reporting Paschal Donohoe has built a no strike clause into the state's 887 million pay deal, which lasts until 2020. So basically they're reporting that he's built this no strike clause. So workers who enter the public sector in 2013 or later can expect a 10% pay rise over the next 3 years, while those who employed before will get a 7% pay rise. But in order to get that, these public sector workers will have to pay more into their pensions and forego strike action. So, but if you remember, Leo Varadkar did say that he did flag this during the leadership election. So, and there you can see May's big gamble backfires again. It's the same story, pretty much just about the exit poll, and they're obviously waiting for all the counts to come in. And there's a story on the side by Peter Dwyer just about how insurance companies have repeatedly warned senior government ministers that they might withdraw from the what they call flawed Irish market while premiums continue to soar. So, for example, motor, like car insurance premiums, have gone up by 57% in the past 4 years. So there's that. And then going down to the Examiner, Owen English has a story about the Cork Council. So in 2015, it was recommended the Cork City and Cork County Council merged into one, like a super council type thing. But a review into this proposed merger has now said that in actual fact, they should both be maintained, and that the city boundary should actually be extended. And this will be the first time in 50 years. It'll increase the city's population by 100,000. So it's quite significant for people in Cork. There's another story there. Advisors shocked at rise in early stage mortgage arrears. And this is on the back of by Eamon Quinn, and this is on the back of central bank new figures, from the central bank that came out earlier today. And basically these figures show that there were almost 100 more homeowners in mortgage arrears for up to 90 days at the end of March compared to the end of December. So I guess just to be clear, there were 23,322 homeowners in arrears up to 90 days at the end of March. But in total, there are 76,422 homeowners in arrears, irrespective of how many days. But that is just over 1,000 fewer than the end of last December. So you have more people. The number of people who are in arrears for up to 90 days has gone up, but the overall number of people who are in arrears has gone down. But overall as well, 1 in 10 are behind in their mortgage payments.
Oh, and does this mean sort of people who've bought houses recently, like in the last year? Or a few?
Well, it doesn't. I don't think the figures actually go into that level, but I don't know. But
early stage mortgage, is that not a like?
Oh yeah. I suppose. I think that I thought that they meant early stages and up to 90 days.
Okay. Oh yes, of course. Yeah. Sorry.
But I'm not too sure about that. No. I'm not too sure about that, but I do think that's an interesting story. It's worth looking at those figures. But there's Trump story there again in relation to Comey. And then Stephen Rogers has a story about the pay deal as well, again.
Okay.
Just saying that the Teachers Union of Ireland has already recommended its members reject it. So we'll see how that works out. I'm sure it'll be going on. Okay. So as these public pay deal stories always go on. So then further down, paying hefty price for some industrial peace. That's a piece by Elaine Loughlin. So again, more stuff about the pay deal. And as you can see, it's a picture of Paschal Donohoe. So I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about this. But I think the no strike thing is possibly the most interesting. But anyway, so...
Sorry, how do you mean? Oh, yeah. If you just go down to the exit poll projection on the top of the Guardian.
Oh, yeah. So the Conservatives are projected to win 314 seats. The Labour are projected to win 266. SNP 34, Lib Dems 14, and others 22. So,
well, it's a great photograph that on the front there. I don't know if you If you
Yeah. Could zoom in, maybe. I'm not sure if I can.
It's a great chance to do that. It's sort of, anyway, no.
Yeah. Oh, that jumped. Okay, that didn't work.
Definitely not.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I suppose he was at the beginning. I mean, she
See Woody
called
Allen there.
It's-
Woody Allen.
Oh, Theresa May's husband.
Oh,
Okay,
Excuse me.
thank you.
Sorry, John.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks so much. I'm sure.
Will I close it down?
I'm sure the Telegraph and the Mail are in absolute meltdown.
Yeah, I'll show you. Would you like to see?
The Mail, listening was it 28 pages yesterday on how
yeah, I was thinking, yeah.
how evil Jeremy Corbyn is. I don't know what they're going to do with this. Gina, you voted today.
Yes. Yes, indeed I did. Yes, it's probably the only time I've gotten up early to actually get out there and vote. It was, I mean, I think it's kind of the sort of, I don't know exactly. I live in such a bubble, I think, and especially a media type bubble. But we had been sort of discussing the whole aspect of Labour and how they were aren't they fighting the good fight? And I think in the afternoon, a lot of people had sort of changed their minds. I think there was a general feeling of just like, actually, you know, they might do it this time. You know, they might just pull something out of the bag. And I'd been hearing people talking about how in the last kind of couple of days, about 1 million people had actually registered to vote. And given that that's probably the sort of younger demographic, they're probably voting for Jeremy, really, because he's had such a strong Twitter game. And Theresa May is she's really, like, not having been at so many of the kind of discussions and, you know, sending Amber Rudd in her steed has just, I think it's really sort of worked against her, and she's kind of come across, I think, as looking quite scared. And Jeremy has just been, he's so powerful in a kind of a hustings environment. And I think that that's sort of what's probably kind of, he's slowly kind of almost one by one covered to his cause. And it's just, it's quite admirable to see what a great achievement I think he's done. If nothing else, he's going to be a wonderful, even if you know, it's still a hung parliament, or if it's not a hung parliament, I think he's going to be a really wonderful opposition leader, and I think he's really going to be challenging Theresa on most things that she will be able to do.
So you voted Tory anyway.
Yes, I know. I was staying on the fence there. Yeah, I was. Well, the constituency that I'm in is quite a strong Labour constituency anyway. So I did debate about maybe giving my vote to the local Lib Dem just to kind of give them a bolster. But it's quite a strong, traditionally quite strong Labour seat. So I just went along and I voted for them anyway. There was the traditional. The MP who was in the area is a man called Jim Dowd, who has been quite vocal for the Dubs Amendment and has been always quite good for campaigning for kind of international policy and is quite aware of things like that. So I've been in touch with him before, so I'd always thought that he was quite a strong person and probably in Jeremy Corbyn's camp very much. So he passed the baton on to another lady from the younger generation, I guess. I think he was kind of retiring. So again, I think it's probably quite a strong Labour seat. So I don't think I've really booked any trends.
Yeah, I noticed Sunderland, although it went Labour, was an 11.4% swing to Conservatives, just on air. And I was wondering, maybe that's just taking the UKIP vote from a working class area, or it's indicative of something that might come up later in the night in terms of Tory comeback. You know,
I think you're right. It's definitely. I think people voted for Brexit thinking it was a kind of they really wanted their voices heard, and I think that was probably why a lot of people voted for Brexit, because they sort of needed to get their voices heard, and I don't think they realised quite. Maybe this is patronising. I'm not sure, but I guess perhaps people sort of felt it kind of seem to get out of control, and Theresa's such a hard line with Europe. I think people are kind of thinking, oh, I didn't quite want to be that hard about it. We prefer a more softer approach, and I think that's where the likes of UKIP have really sort of lost their stranglehold, and that's probably where Labour have really kind of capitalised. It's quite.
I think UKIP's job is done effectively. It's a Brexit project.
Exactly. And I think Nigel Farage was such a charismatic personality, and he went in with his pints and he was so kind of gregarious. And I think that's what got an awful lot of people on board, was his personality more than the party, I think. Yeah. And I think having just, seen what's happened with the recent attacks, I think it's kind of made people a little bit wary of appearing racist when they don't really mean to be. And you could have such a strong kind of you know, they identify so strongly with the kind of more sort of trickier side of politics. I think they haven't really done themselves any favors.
Johnny, you must be very, very happy tonight, are you?
I'm a long game player, John. You know, so it's only started. But I would say fair play to the people up in Newcastle. They counted 34,000 votes in less than an hour. In Longford, it took them a week to count the same amount of votes in the last election. So these people are volunteering. Yeah, these people are volunteering in Newcastle. So anyway, you know, obviously very competitive there with their Northeast brothers in Sunderland. I don't know why they came in first, but anyway, yeah, the exit poll is interesting, but like it's I just think that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a long night. I can actually see Labour surprising a lot of people, because the exit poll is just based on be asked in an exit poll. I don't know. Maybe that's a question that it's polls are almost like since the Trump and Brexit are almost out the window. So I'm not going to rely too much on that Brexit poll, but I do like the idea of Labour and the Liberal Dems getting in there. It needs to be. But the campaign itself been going on all week. It's been really, really brilliant for Jeremy Corbyn, for a guy who has no personality and is basically should be put in the dustbin according to the Sun this morning. And I'm just wondering how the likes of Frankie Boyle can come to terms with that. Like, you know, that he's writing in the same paper that would just lambaste someone who's obviously garnering publicity every day. And if it went on for another week, this election would be won hands down. But I can't understand for the life of me how it is so close. Because Conservatives should be nowhere near in this race. And I think it's media manipulation again.
Yeah.
That's making the Conservatives seem a lot better than they are. And if they are as good as 320 odd seats, and they have to rely on the likes of Jeffrey Donaldson of the Ulster Unionist Party get in, it says a lot that is the new Britain that's going to wake up in the morning, which is a lot worse than the one that went to bed last night. The only thing that needs to be got is Jeremy Corbyn and a new government then. And if it isn't, Britain are gone to fuck. They really are. Like, you know, it literally is a country, a nation full of gobshites that can actually listen to and out of touch a leader who refuses to debate. This is the 1%, by the way. Everyone's woken up to this shit 10 years ago. And when exactly is a Conservative 1% government going to be ousted by the majority, 90% of the voting people? I don't know. I don't get it. Like, I really don't. And all this last 2 weeks has been all about Labour rising, and it's not going to be Labour in the next 5 years. It should be Labour in the next 5 days.
Well, I don't think
Labour has to win this.
I have to say that I don't think I've seen more press collusion in terms of getting a candidate than I did last year with Donald Trump, until I saw what happened Corbyn in the last 3 weeks. When I was living in London in the 80s, I worked on a local paper. He was Finsbury MP, and he was getting that then. He was getting the exact same kind of abuse. He's been a hate figure for, longer than many of us have been around. It really is quite amazing if he can pull off tonight. I mean,
but what they threw at him then in relation to turning up at a Sinn Féin meeting or something there in 1985 odd, like they threw that 3 weeks ago, and they're still thinking that it's going to stick. I was very intrigued there at the Question Time panel. I think it was last Monday. QT used to be questions for chancellors. John Bowman used to do it in Ireland, the same thing, but it was like the flagship program for a good TV debate. But now I've seen since, and I'll just finish this, John, because I know everyone else wants to get through. But it was what's the guy? He's doing the BBC commentary there tonight. But no, not Paxman.
No.
Dimbleby, is it?
Dimbleby. It usually is.
John and Dimbleby. But it seems to be that the Britain's Got Talent or X Factor audience kind of took over the question time panel. Maybe because of the Brexit, they didn't feel that these people were being proportionally represented in these kind of shows. But then these guys started going to Corbyn, 10 minutes of onslaught of question after question before he could answer when there was asked another question. So they were asking him, what are you going to do if Iran or North Korea invade the nuclear bomb? All they wanted to do was make sure that he would nuke them before they even thought about nuking us. And next thing, this girl, everyone was going, yeah, and applauding, like crazy stuff. And next thing, this girl just goes, I'm just a bit surprised that everyone wants to kill millions of people. And this is the fear. This is the fear that has been gone into the electorate. On the back of Manchester, on the back of London, it shouldn't have been a political issue, and Theresa May did it. And she's a fucking evil bitch for that. I'm sorry for my language.
Okay, well, Neil is in Spain tonight.
Yeah, from my sayings. I was listening to a bit of the UK European broadcasts earlier, and there was certainly, I would say, a sense of excitement as they talked about the exit polls, and they talked to people who aren't politicians, who maybe wrote in if the coalition of chaos has a chance of running. But I'd say Theresa May is getting out her mobile phone to call Enda to ask how is she going to survive the call for resignation for the next few weeks. And because I suspect if she pulls through this, she's probably going to use the whole Brexit negotiations as her golden ticket to stay in control. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out. And the shadow councillor, maybe prematurely asked for her to resign. One way or another, she'll have to go. But Brexit negotiations will probably dominate that. But I mean, the whole victimizing of Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, he in many ways he's kind of this cartoon representative of what people have been calling for over the past years in terms of banking crisis. And I mean, the guy lives in very humble accommodation. He's almost the representative of the people. A hero. If Alan Moore was still writing comic books, Theresa May would be an ideal candidate for his stories. But this whole victimization that went on in the press, which, like I say, was very like what Trump was having, which it makes you question, well, where was the motivation from that coming from? Who was pushed, who was driving for that? Because there's definitely been an appetite. The Brexit has certainly woken up people, especially young people in the UK, to getting their shit together, and this was a real opportunity to correct that. So, we've got a long night ahead of us and a long week for the people who are sweating in their beds right now.
I don't want to sound like an RT presenter, but how will this affect Ireland in our negotiations? Olga, any ideas?
God, I don't know. I mean, hard Brexit, soft Brexit,
I suppose what I'm saying is that many will see this as like, okay, this is Brexit referendum number 2 now. This is what this means, this vote means. And many will say that if the young people are the difference, that they voted out of guilt for not voting in Brexit or voting in the referendum last year. Gina, would you have voted? Did you vote at the Brexit vote?
I did, yes. I voted. Obviously, I thought I wanted to stay. I think Britain is much more stronger in Europe, but I guess that's kind of from a selfish point of view because I was concerned about what would happen. And there's always a sort of an overarching feeling here of, well, you're Irish, so you're kind of one of us anyway, and it's sort of this thing of like, well, we have that special relationship, and you're sort of like, yeah, but I don't want to put it to the test either. And I think this, it's just this sense of like, let's not test our borders quite as much as we are. Theresa, please bring it back to a softer Brexit. There's no need to go in with all guns blazing and act like, Trump's little sister and acting as if you're kind of going to, no matter what, Europe are going to bend to what we want. And it's this terrible attitude that I don't think is going to go down very well. So I have had friends, though, who voted for Brexit because they think it's a positive thing for the economy. And they felt quite sort of hard done by because people have sort of accused them of being racist and, well, that's not fair, you want foreigners out. And their argument is very different. It's not that, it's that they want the economy to be stronger and they want borders to be protected. And I've sat down and I've spoken to people who have had different opinions to me, and once I've listened to them for a while, I'm like, oh, actually that does make sense. Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. And that's the thing, was it was such a divisive issue because it would seem to be so all or nothing. And it was like, no, there's got to be some sort of a balance here that we can have kind of the best of both worlds, you know, of leaving Europe, but also still keeping a foot in there somewhere. So maybe that's why many people voted for Jeremy. I don't know. He would have been a bit Brexit.
Did you find though from people at the time that they didn't vote, a lot of Remains stayed at home? They just thought it was a foregone conclusion, and now they're coming out to vote for Corbyn as a punishment as such. No, okay. That's
it's a tricky one. I know what you mean, sort of atonement. Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm going to vote Corbyn in now. Yeah, I think it's funny because a lot of people didn't say they voted to leave at the time, which is quite interesting. So I'd kind of assumed a lot of people I knew had all kind of voted to stay in. And then after the weeks had gone by, they kind of, you know, one or two might say, oh no, well, I voted to leave. And you think, oh, I'm surprised. And you know, it's just kind of, it was almost like people were quite scared to say what they had voted, whether they wanted to stay in or leave, you know. And it's quite funny, people are being a lot more sort of open about how they're voting now, which, you know, I thought is quite interesting. Just in the run up to this election, it felt like in the week gone by, I've been openly, I know what a lot of people in my workplace are voting, and, you know, other friends outside of work, I know how they're voting too. And it just felt like quite an interesting sort of a change in the dynamic, in the sense of English people are so reserved and they sort of don't tend to tell you very much about themselves. But this time they've been so much more open, and that's probably quite a sweeping statement to make, but of the people I've been speaking to, I was quite sort of surprised by that. And I don't know if that's the Brexit effect. I'm not sure.
Was that across the board with the different parties, like both people who were voting Labour and Conservative? Yeah, both.
Yes, yeah, it was like, I mean, it's kind of, in my experience, for the people that I know, I would not say that it would be Brexit and Conservative. It would, you know, rather Leave and Conservative, and Remain were Labour. It wasn't strictly down the line like that at all. There was quite a lot of, there's so much more complexity than I had ever realised. And I think I had quite a simplistic view of Brexit. And, you know, I just think that there's just so much more at stake. It comes down to so much more than just this, you know, let's leave Europe thing.
Binary,
it's quite interesting, yeah.
Well,
it could have been bundled in one.
Yeah, I don't think there will be another Brexit referendum. And I was just thinking there, the Theresa May, if she doesn't survive, who will be her successor? Do you follow any of the stuff, Neil?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's going to want to hang on to that, to be part of that. It's very hard to say. It's going to be very interesting to see, because no matter what happens now overnight, Britain's in a weakened position in terms of Brexit negotiations. I mean, the pound took a bit of a hit there. The currency markets took a bit of a hit there, which would be expected anyway. But now there's speculation that you know, investors weren't even expecting this. So yeah, now's the time to buy sterling if you're looking for it. That will recover though. But yeah, it's hard to say. It's difficult to say now. But either way, you know, I've said it before. We need a hard Brexit from an Irish perspective. So
we have a result from, well, we don't have a result, but we have one box in Hilltown, 85% for Sinn Féin. Still very early, but wow. Sorry, this is just a tweet I'm reading. Johnny, the shy Tory phenomenon, we have that in Ireland, the shy Fine Gaeler phenomenon. The shy Tories could, you know, still give it to Theresa tonight.
Absolutely, John. Leo Varadkar is probably the best Tory that Britain had since Tony Blair. You know, Margaret Thatcher famously said, "What's your legacy?" She was asked, and this is my friend George Galloway, who's also running in Manchester, Gordon. I had his Irish Premier in Ireland last year. The killings of Tony Blair, and Thatcher was asked, "What's your legacy?" Tony Blair and New Labour. So that's Leo Varadkar. He's new Tory light. And what we need is someone like Jeremy Corbyn. I don't know where he is in this country, but I think the British election right now is probably the most important thing that could possibly happen to Ireland in the near future. Because I mean that we galvanise ourselves. Now this has been going on all over the world. This 1% phenomena. Who are fucking us over? The tycoons, and they're all fairly big in the media industry, as you know, and The capitalists, basically, the vulture capitalists, the Wall Street. This is it. This is the Tories. This is Leo Varadkar. So, you know, when you look in relation to how Britain was built after the Second World War, how many people were left this country to go over and build that? And where are they now? A lot of these people have a problem with other people coming over. And that's the bread and butter behind the economy of Britain. And it's the bread and butter behind the economy of Ireland. So we're exact same. Anyone in the Western world have the same first-class problems, world-class problems as anyone else. So what we need to do is vote. It's not left or right. It's the ones that are interested in two things. Investment, which is jobs, and puts a roof over your head, and a virtue that we all aspire to, peace. Now, they're two simple things, but it just drives my mind crazy how people don't rationalize this in relation to who they vote for. They vote for themselves. What can I get? And then that's how society breaks down, because there is no community. We need to look at Jeremy Corbyn. Your man, the guy in America, Bernie Sanders, I think he's in Ireland this week, and everyone's falling over backwards. Every lefty in the country wants to go see him.
Yeah.
He got done over in the election and within his own party, that Hillary Clinton. You know, there's 3 court cases imminent in relation to what kind of a scam that was. And then he got a guy talking about the Russians today. I don't know what that guy was on about. I don't even know what's going to come out of that. Does it make any difference?
It's a real.
But here's the thing. Yeah, but Bernie Sanders, John, should be the president of America now, because he would have got the Democratic Party if Hillary didn't do him over.
Yes, yeah.
But it's the same thing, John. It's the same thing that Bernie Sanders will be around in 5 years' time. He's building for the Democrats. Bollocks. Bernie Sanders will not be known in 2 years' time. So we cannot let Jeremy Corbyn go away. If the Brits let him go away, the ideology, we need, from an Irish perspective, we need to hold on to that. That's the only important thing that we need to get from this British election, is how peace and honesty is the way forward in relation to politics. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, Johnny. I mean, a lot of that stuff about Hillary and Hillary's campaign and the DNC campaign last year, we covered on the site, and it was seen as pro-Trump, and anything anti-Hillary was seen as pro-Trump. But in the last couple of months, while the Russian Trump narrative has been dominating Washington Post, CNN, BBC, whatever, behind the scenes, the DNC stuff is unraveling, and there's a very good possibility that really prominent people could be in a lot of trouble, and a lot of what we're seeing in the Russian Trump narrative seems to be a huge distraction, and there's more evidence for the DNC inclusion in a possible alleged murder of a young DNC data analyst. But anyway, it's something that we'd like to talk about on the show maybe over the summer. And just to remind you on the summer thing that from June the 22nd, we'll be broadcasting at 11:45 or 10:45 to take advantage of the stretch and what have you. Anyway, the election today, or if Corbyn has done as well as the exit suggest, this is another kind of a part 2 to what Leo Varadkar vote among Fine Gael members. You remember that Leo Varadkar lost the membership vote by 60-40, what was it?
Yeah. Like, I mean, he got so few votes. I thought it was quite, interesting when you just think of a vote in individual sense, and you do have.
Is that a rejection of this?
I saw that as a kind of a rejection of the. Well, I'm no expert, but I saw it as a rejection of people within Fine Gael wanting to hitch their wagon to him and to his. And how he came out during that leadership election, during that leadership 2-week, whatever it was. And so I'm not convinced, I'm not convinced Fine Gael will do really well in the next election. And I think if what's happening in Britain will teach us anything, may teach us anything, or may teach Leo Varadkar something, he might need to temper his, some of the stuff that he said in the last 2 weeks, or I don't think that strike ban will go down well amongst the 300,000 public sector workers.
Yeah, Neil, sorry, the swing to the right doesn't seem to be backfiring all around.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought it was a massive gamble when she called for the early election. It just didn't make any sense to me why she would do that. But this is politics. In many ways, politics is a fad. When we look at the next Irish general election, Fianna Fáil are going to make up a lot of ground that they've lost. So it's all cyclical. But just
cyclical, yeah.
Sorry, Fine Gael are playing literally from the Tory playbook. I know that this Tory pollster is working with Fine Gael. Do you think they'll maintain that strategy now, or do you think they'll do a rethink?
It's hard to say. I always kind of think of, progress in Ireland takes a lot longer than it does in other parts of the world. It's hard to say. They could be doing it for the Tories could get wiped out bizarrely overnight, and Fine Gael could possibly still use that strategy for the next 2 general elections.
Yeah.
I don't know, but with Leo, what's interesting, just to go off on a tangent, I got a few messages from friends in the US, with Leo being made Taoiseach, congratulating me on the election of Leo, and I was, who the fuck do you give a shit about Irish politics? And then of course I knew it was because of the coverage, the first openly gay Prime Minister of Ireland, and but there was moments that in my head I was like, is there something about Leo I don't know that people are congratulating us on the clothes? But I quickly put it back in their boxes when I told them what I thought of them.
Yeah,
the first openly gay there, Neil.
Or as the Phoenix openly Tory. He's not a shy Tory. Gina, do you follow the Irish stuff as well?
Because I think I've been sort of absorbed a little bit in the election here. I'm ashamed to say that I haven't been following it as closely as I should.
Would you vote,
but yes.
How would you vote in Ireland if there was a general election?
Well, I feel like I've been out of the sort of system for so long. I think I probably would have been a Fine Gael voter. I mean, I've voted Labour in the past in Ireland, but I think in Ireland I tend to vote on the person rather than the party, I think. Whereas here in the UK, I sort of tend to vote more for the party than the person, I think, although I haven't done that this time. But just, I think in terms of, because I always feel like, it's sort of, you'll get to know the person an awful lot better in Ireland. Maybe that's but I think, yes, it was quite interesting, Neil's point actually about how Leo Varadkar, when I went into work, everyone was congratulating me on how great and progressive Ireland was, and you legalized gay marriage last year and now you've elected a gay prime minister, isn't it great? And you thought, well, when I left Ireland he was like, still the health minister, so I mean, I don't really know his track record very well, and I don't really know very much about him, but I don't think that's always a good sign. I would rather have, I'm not sure who else, I mean, Simon Coveney, wasn't it, who was the other contender, I guess. I don't know, to be honest, if he would have been any better, but
I wrongly predicted that he would win, that the fix was in, and anyway, I got it completely wrong, but he is going to be probably tarnished too. I don't know how long.
Really?
I don't know how long a Leo Varadkar-led government is going to last. I feel that he lacks the personal qualities to be in good coalitions. I would suggest,
I would agree, yeah. From what little I'm kind of seeing of him recently, I've just been kind of, trying to read the papers online really quickly and try and form an opinion very quickly about him. But yeah, I would. That's the opinion I would have formed of him as well, actually. Yeah.
He needs to have terrible judgment. I mean, his judgment is kind of whoa, it's like don't. I think.
But also it's kind of gone. Sorry. It's also kind of gone past him, like or as in Colin Brophy was using language that was very similar to what Leo Varadkar was using in regards to the hard left when he was speaking on Tonight with Vincent Brown last night. I think that if more and more Fine Gael TDs use that language, I don't think it'll serve them well. I just don't.
Yeah, but there's make-up terms there now, all guys. The alternative right.
Yeah.
The hard left.
Yeah.
It's like, these are bullies now. The alternative right, they're looking for the middle ground. They're almost like the liberals now today, which are far right conservative. Well, right conservatives anyway. So the labelling, and this is what I'm saying, the media manipulation, because the people who vote and they believe these institutions, these bastions of free speech like the Sun. It's crazy. No, really, like they actually do believe what fucking the headline in the Sun is.
Well, it must be again.
I can't understand that. I really can't. This is the bubblegum generation of X Factor and Ant and Dick and man. I don't know. And it's come into Irish society as well. Yes, John. Yes. There's no rhyme or reason for it. There's no rhyme or reason for it. I'm trying to understand it, man.
I find the millennials.
I used to give people credit, but not anymore, man. Fuck them.
Yeah, but you can't go on like
they're apathetic and docile, John. They refuse to inform themselves.
Johnny, nobody was more apathetic than the Celtic Tiger generation, which you're part of. You know, nobody was more apathetic. We just literally didn't.
John,
tribunal reports.
My hands are up. We all partied. Even though I had no money or no cocaine, I didn't party, but I put my hands up on behalf of the generation who refused to put their hands up. What I'm saying is, John, we're in a serious situation. People need to inform themselves. There's no excuse for ignorance anymore.
Yeah, but
a lot of stake.
Johnny, yeah, but the kids of today, that kind of stuff is nonsense, rubbish. The millennials are incredibly engaged, if not, very active. Because they're busy too. They're not like us, me and you, Johnny. We can surf the web, read the stuff, and they've got things to do. They've got lives, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, voting is one of those things. There's no point in having an opinion if you're not prepared to follow it up with a vote.
Well, maybe.
We can all smoke spliffs all day, John. I'd probably smoke them underneath the table, but I still go out and vote.
Okay. Well, just make sure you get the X in the right.
The X Factor.
Sorry, John, I think I interrupted you there earlier. I think you were in the middle of saying something about Leo, and I think I interrupted. But
how long will a Leo-led government last?
I guess Fianna Fáil will pull out once they realise that Leo's gone so far.
Well, when will that be?
When he goes so far, and alienates a lot of people.
Why is
Fianna
Fáil afraid of an election? I mean, is there a particular reason? I mean, they're not doing fantastic in the polls, but the polls, look at the polls and they don't seem to work anymore.
Yeah.
Anybody? Neil? Fianna Fáil? You're a kind of Fianna Fáiler.
No, I'm not. Getting back to what you asked our poor guest this week who she'd vote for, it's a trick question because there's no right answer. No, it's all cyclical. I mean, I have an element of respect for Micheál Martin over the whole smoking ban issue from years ago that he endured to no political gain. But that's about as far as I'd put it. Who knows? I mean, Leo's going to last in the budget. We'll see what comes out in the budget if he hasn't stuck his foot in his mouth by then, or that's probably as far as that will get before TUI as well. They've rejected the whole new the whole pay thing. We're in interesting waters, interesting times, I should say.
Was he getting his pep talk there today? Sorry to cut across that. It was in Broadsheet. It looked like he was talking to Big Phil. Big Phil is the head of elections there with Fine Gael, has been for a year, and he's the big boy in Europe now. Yeah. And it seemed like Varadkar was getting a bit of a pep talk from him.
Yeah, I mean they were papped, weren't they, from a car? Yeah. You'd seen them on the along the road or somewhere. But
an exclusive on Broadsheet again.
Was that the Angler's Rest? Yeah, the Angler's Rest in.
Angler's Rest, yeah.
So they were fishing, all right.
But I think,
that's it. That's it. Like, you can say Varadkar, 38, go get him, fully out gay Indian migrant, father's Indian, and this is great. This is new progressive Ireland. He's only a puppet, like.
It's a bit like,
essentially, he's not a guy who came in. He's not a Corbyn. He didn't come from nothing and has been propagating peace and justice and equality all his life. He has been part of this Thatcherite, Tory, 1% agenda and this is all going on. Back to Bilderberg this weekend as well. It's just so cozy. But all we got to do is just see exactly that there's a pattern here, and the only way that they can change is that, please, hopefully, Jeremy Corbyn, 6-3 now. It is in seats wise.
What does that mean?
To Labour, 6-3, early doors.
Oh, very early doors. Well, Olga, you're the cephalogist of the.
Yeah.
Could you break down the battleground?
Well, I think it's so. As Johnny said, yeah. So I'm just looking at the BBC, but it's 6-2. So 6 seats have gone to Labour, 2 have gone to Conservatives. Majority is need 326 to get a majority.
Could you check?
So
check the result in Hastings. The battle Hastings. The secretary is she's going to lose her seat. No.
Someone get 2 seconds.
Gianna, are you?
Is there a recount? I think it's gone to a recount. Yeah.
There may be. Her seat was precarious. If you're watching a recording of this, very sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Talking about.
Don't ruin it like the Titanic.
Yeah. Well, anybody give me a report? Neil from the Spanish from
What's interesting in Spain is all the British expats who kind of want to have their cake and eat it. There's a lot of expats that kind of want to remain living their lives in Spain, but have the luxury of the Brexit of leaving Europe, and it's fascinating hearing the facetiousness of many of the voices in that, of that era, of that generation, who are very much voters for Tory, who would be very much May supporters, yet want this whole thing of, well, we want to continue to live our lives, or the latter years of our lives in Spain, yet we want to be out of Europe. It's just I'm kind of like my jaw drops every time I hear it so blatantly. But there's no middle ground with it.
Well,
John, just to say, on The Guardian, I'm just reading this from The Guardian, but Henry MacDonald, he's the Ireland correspondent there, he is saying that a DUP source has told The Guardian tonight that the party may back a Tory administration on the confidence and supply basis rather than formally join any coalition or take up the odd ministry in Downing Street. The source said the agreement would be similar to the one Ireland's main opposition party, Fianna Fáil, adheres to at present in the Irish Parliament. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That doesn't please you, Gina?
Well, I think it's just, Theresa May has just such a little of an understanding of what's going on in Northern Ireland. Her concept of, this hard negotiations that she's going to do over Brexit, and yet she does not seem to even know what a hard border is in Northern Ireland. And I just think it's, I don't know whether in some ways maybe having the DUP holding that balance of power for her is maybe a good thing for Northern Ireland and the border. But it's just incredible how Theresa May is going to use them just for this, and they're really not going to get very much out of it. It's just quite fascinating just to see. You can never really tell how something is going to, like earlier on I've been reading that Sinn Féin may have been able to hold the balance of power for Jeremy's side, and you think, wow, this is really, it's so much of it is coming down to Northern Ireland, and yet so little of the campaign was run on anything to do with any issues in Northern Ireland. And it just seems so, it's great obviously that Northern Ireland has that kind of voice, because but I really just, I find it kind of frustrating how little Theresa seems to understand of what's happening in Northern Ireland, and yet she's going to have to rely on the DUP by the sounds of it. It's really interesting.
I must say just I don't know whether it's changed in London, but because of the regional ITV stations and the regional BBC, you get very, very little news about Northern Ireland, and if you lived in London.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
unless
Yeah, you're just in your own bubble. Yeah, completely. And like in London, even it's regionalized even further. You've got the Southeast News and you've got London Central and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, you really wouldn't hear anything about it, you know, and just so little of any of the campaigning has dealt with what's been happening, you know, what it will mean for Northern Ireland. It's just, yeah, I mean, I'm glad in some ways that there is some sort of a, you know, they'll be able to get their voices heard in it in some way. But, you know, it's just infuriating a little bit.
just to go back to the Leo election, a friend said to me, who's gay, said, I feel like the way feminists must have felt when Margaret Thatcher was elected. You know?
Brilliant.
Nice.
So I think we might leave it there unless there's anything else that we can chew over. It's going to be an incredible evening. I'm going to stay up. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
thank you very much for a very interesting evening to Olga Cronin, to Neil Curran, to Johnny Keenan, and to Gina Gallagher from London, and say hello to. We don't get a chance to see the live chat, but to Frilly and Mildred and me.
Hi, Frilly.
Yeah, Frilly, and all the
And Zena.
and Zena.
And Anne. Come on, John, keep going while they're there.
And
Johnny, it was, you didn't shout
Shada
out.
and Sibling and you name it. And I'd just like to say, if, with the new show or the new time, if you'd like to take part, we're at Broadsheet at broadsheet.ie. It's really easy. If you're introverted or shy, you can do it from your like Johnny. From your
or opinionated, John. It's good to have people with opinions as well, isn't it? That's what we're looking for, essentially.
I know it's great, great voice, and
we are the new media. This
well,
is Broadsheet, the new media. It gives a voice to everyone, even crazy fuckers from Offaly like me.
Okay. On that bombshell, thank you very much for joining us tonight, particularly to our commenters and our readers. We'll be on the site again tomorrow and on air tomorrow at our next week. Thank you so much, and good night. Awkward pause coming up.